Alright, got a video request message that I received. I'll read the message and I'll quickly respond. It says, "Hello Seafood Lee, I have a question and possibly a video request in response to this particular art. 52 blocks that originates and was developed from the urban black community and prison systems for self-defense. The art consists of mainly a lot of parries, forearm blocks, shoulder blocks, and rolls maintaining contact with the forearm after the punch, similar to Mayweather's style of boxing and the Michigan shell defense he implements. It also uses concepts of Wing Chun concepts like sticky hands and center line, but combined with boxing technique as well. And there's sparring is similar to your own with hardly any protective equipment, but sometimes they use gloves and spar a lot outside in parks and basketball courts. Also, there's a channel on YouTube, 52 Blocks Info, which details the style and is practiced and expressed by an interesting and knowledgeable individual. Your feedback and opinion on the style and subject will be of the utmost value and very much appreciated. Thank you." Alright, so I did not look into it. I have one thing that I kind of stay consistent with is that, you know, I'm expressing my own methods, my own way, and I want to be original to my own teachings. And I feel that there's really, I mean, it's unarmed combat. I mean, it's not that difficult, you know. They're going into weapons training. I mean, they're going into firearms and all sorts of technology. Unarmed combat is not that difficult. But as far as what this person is stating about this style, it sounds like an interesting thing. It sounds like something that would be effective. You know, Mayweather is very good at what he does. And, you know, the blacks in general are just very athletic and very gifted in their physical expression. You know, from football to basketball. You know, look at basketball right now, the NBA Finals. Look at the most talented basketball players in the finals. They're usually, you know, most of them are all black. And then there's Kevin Love, and then what? You know, everybody's black. You know, Mayweather's black. Mike Tyson's black. You know, Muhammad Ali's black. I mean, Michael Joe White is black. I mean, Wesley Snipes. What's his name? Jim Kelly. I mean, blacks have a gift in their genetics of expressing themselves to a very, you know, to a very high level when it comes to what they put their mind to, you know, so, and their effort. So even Usain Bolt is black, you know, the fastest man alive. So, you know, blacks have a gift when it comes to physical expression. You know, you put them in football, they'll be successful. You put them in baseball, they'll be successful. You put them in golf, they'll be successful. You put them into boxing, they'll be successful. You put them in MMA, they'll be successful. You put them into martial arts, they'll be successful. Now, the Chinese, what are the Chinese known for? They're known for a lot of intelligence, you know, so if you look, I mean, I don't know the stats as is, but you look into like the highest, some of the highest scores in college when it comes to exams and all that, and getting degrees. I mean, a lot of Asians, that's their thing, like reading books and all that, and they're supposed to be very intelligent, you know, but they're not that athletic. That's why Bruce Lee was very unique, because he was athletic and intelligent, but a lot of Asians are seen to be intelligent but not too athletic, you know. And what I'm basically saying is that this style might be a great style, but it would be minuscule in comparison to Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do and Bruce Lee's expression. If you read the Tao of Jeet Kune Do and you read all Bruce Lee's books and you watch his movies and his physical expression of it, I can pretty much guarantee you that this style and no style out there that I have seen can even come close to matching up to Bruce's expertise as far as the intellectual expression of unarmed combat and the science behind it. So this style might be a great style, but it's just not worth studying over Bruce Lee's way. Unless Bruce Lee's method is just too difficult to understand, too complex, and just it's over your head, then you might do something like this because you know, it's like you're not ready for this level of, you know, study. You know, you can't get into the PhD courses without going through like high school first or junior high first, you know. So Bruce Lee's method is the true method. You know, there's really, it has it, you know, it pretty much puts everything together, and it might give you 50%, 60%, even 70% of everything that you need to know, and then you just got to complete the rest on your own. I don't see this style or any style out there even coming close to comparison. And 52 blocks, the style or whatever, it's already imposing limitations. Like once you put, okay, so what, there's only allowed 52 blocks to be allowed, but you can't have more than that. I mean, when you put limits on anything, it already makes it not the ultimate. So even the Wing Chun system is a limitation. It's a limitation based on the Shaolin techniques, you know, which is thousands of techniques condensed into something like easy to learn, easy to master, you know, in a simplified, very watered down version, impure. So that's why Wing Chun is not even close to being the true system, you know. And 52 blocks or whatever the thing is called, it's pretty much going into that limitation. So that is not good. Bruce Lee's method is essentially, he wasn't even supposed to name it. He wasn't even happy with labeling it as Jeet Kune Do, because that itself is a limitation. But he also, you know, engraved in his gravestone, and he would always have in his books, use no limitation as limitation. So it shouldn't be 52 blocks, you know. Even it shouldn't even be 52,000 blocks. It shouldn't even be 52 million blocks. I mean, you shouldn't be limited in how many different blocking methods you could do, or striking methods, or kicking methods. I mean, that's the problem with even with the problem with the label. Okay, you're talking about blocks, but where are the punches? Where are the kicks? Where are the ground techniques? I mean, it's not contained within the label, so it makes it seem as if it's just a style that's just all about blocks, just 52 blocks, and that's all that you learn. There's no choking techniques, there's no arm bars, there's no, you know, there's no punching, there's no kicking, there's no, you know, there's no weapons. It's just 52 blocks, and that becomes an issue, you know, a limitation, you know, that the label in itself is setting the limitation. So I think, you know, if you do choose a label to label your style, your art, it should be as limitless as possible. It should have the least amount of limitations within that label. But Bruce Lee's method was called the way of the intercepting fist. But what about the way of the intercepting foot? What about weapons? What about, you know, ground fighting, or whatever the case may be? There's problems within, limitations within labels. But as far as these methods are concerned, that's the thing, you know. It's developed prison systems. I mean, these people in prison, how smart are people in prison? I mean, they're not that smart. I mean, if they were smart, they wouldn't be in prison. So why would you depend on a system that's developed in prison? You should be looking at a system that's developed by people that are highly intelligent, you know, like in college, way beyond college, and people like Einstein, you know, like a system created by 100 people that are at the level of Einstein, focusing on the perfection of unarmed combat. But nobody really puts their time into that. These scientists are looking at different things, you know. They're looking at solving world, you know, the problem with, you know, poverty worldwide, and trying to get food for the people, and trying to develop Tesla cars and electric cars, and, you know, different ways of bettering the environment. They're not stuck onto the best methods of unarmed combat. That really is irrelevant for today's world. But Bruce Lee was one of the individuals. He was like the Einstein of unarmed combat. You know, he loved unarmed combat. He didn't really care to use weapons too much, but he did use them, you know, like the nunchucks, the bull staff, but he wouldn't even really touch a gun on screen, and he never even wrote about the guns in his books, you know. But he just loved unarmed combat. And nobody else that has ever lived, you know, has ever looked so deeply into unarmed combat the way Bruce Lee did. You know, nobody. You know, and Bruce Lee, you know, he didn't finish his college education with a bachelor's, but I think he might have stopped after about 2 years. So, you know, he had 2 years of college. Yeah, he was an intelligent person. He read a lot of books. He had a library of over 2,000 books. You know, he was an intelligent person, and he put his energy into developing the most comprehensive, you know, scientific method of self-defense for the streets that nobody even comes close to comparing to. You know, so you shouldn't be looking at people that are coming from prison comparing to people that are just way beyond that. You know, this stuff is not that difficult to figure out. You know, especially if you got a college education or you read a lot of books, you're just halfway intelligent. You can figure out these methods that work. You know, you don't need to depend on a system that is flawed by individuals that, you know, they're just not at that level. You know, I'm just sorry to say they're not at that level. You know what I mean? Like, if we're talking about the top cream of the crop when the NBA, you might talk about Michael Jordan, you might talk about Kobe Bryant, you might talk about LeBron James, people that are very high level, but don't compare them to people that are coming off the bench, or people that aren't even in the NBA to begin with, people that are in junior high leagues. Don't compare these three to the junior high leagues. So what I'm saying is Bruce Lee is like the cream of the crop, like basically like the Usain Bolt, like the Michael Jordan, like the LeBron James, like the Kobe Bryant. That's like Bruce Lee. That's Jeet Kune Do. It's already there for you to study. Don't go learning from people in prison that haven't even graduated junior high trying to teach you how to get better at fighting. You know what I mean? Like, these are not the people to learn from. You want to learn from intelligent people that have mastered the science. You know, so I mean, I would say learn from Mayweather. Learn as much as you can from Mayweather. You know, learn as much as you can from Bruce Lee. Learn as much as you can from Muhammad Ali, and even Mike Tyson of what he knows. But the system from people from prison, you know, fighting in basketball courts, fighting in tennis courts, fighting in the streets, doesn't matter where you're fighting. I don't, you know, there's really nothing to learn there that you don't already know from within yourself. And if you are to learn from people that are really qualified to teach. And I'm saying, Bruce Lee's methods, the Jeet Kune Do has all the answers right there, or at least 50% of the answers, 70% of the answers. And after reading through his material and understanding it, you just have to figure out the rest on your own, and it's not that difficult. You know, and then you got to create your own expression and be yourself. You know, so that's what I got to say about that.